but everyone has a different story to tell. Shell, which says it's losing it.
The Tampa market. Staggering rise.
Country in Northeast Africa, precisely on the Horn of Africa.
The living fund.
All right. Good afternoon again. Once again, family, this is Frank. I am your host. This is the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series every Sunday at 1 p.m. I just want to welcome you all. And as you come on, please share the live. Please subscribe, hit the like. Let it go as far as it can go. So today's topic, it says Biden colonial statement of Africa again displays his ignorance as he badge Afrika-China relation. So Biden colonial statement of Africa again displays his ignorance as he badge Afrika-China relation, as he criticized Afrika-China relation. Now, somebody may ask, why did I use the word colonial? If you know the history, you know what I'm talking about. And the reason why I use the word colonial is that these Western countries, these imperialists, still think that Africa is still a colonial continent, that they can dictate or they can tell African what to do, okay, what to say or who to partner with or who to make friend with. All right. So a nation like America criticized an entire continent. Can you understand that? How can a nation like America criticize an entire continent? And at the same time, the country, the nation to which America or Africa have a relationship with, and America is criticizing that relation, is the same nation that America also is trying to strengthen. She already have a relationship with China, but she's trying to strengthen that relationship with China. How can you be strengthening your relationship with a nation? And then on the other hand, you asking Africa, a continent, not to have a relation with that nation. How can America, at this point of time, fighting her to strengthen her tie with China? America does not want for that relationship with China to be broken. She does not want to lose that relationship because she's also benefiting from China. Then how can America tell Africa to distance herself from China? How can America have a relationship with China that she's benefiting from the Chinese government, from the Chinese people, from the Chinese economy, from the Chinese technology, but at the same time, tell African people that China is a bad nation to do business with? Before I start, folks, I want to come out with a statement, a quote from Ahmed Secretary of Guinea, Conakry. I wanted to bring it out, but for some reason it did not agree to come on my string. So I'm just going to read it here, and I'm going to use that as my thesis or as my premise. And I'm going to keep references on it as we go along. So Ahmed Secretary, he says, when you are praised by the colonialist, by the imperialist, by the oppressor, by America, by Europe, when you are praised by them, when you are an African leader and you are praised by the colonialist, by the imperialist, by the oppressor, by the enslaver, by America, and by Europe, it means that you are a bad leader for your people. This is Ahmed Sekou Toure of Guinea-Conakry. He said, when you are praised by the colonialist, it means that you are bad for your people. And when they say you are bad, it means that you are good for your people. And he went as far as to say, the day, Ahmed Sekou Toure, the day they say, the day America says, the day Europe says, the day the oppressor, the colonizer says, I am good. That means I betray you, my people. This is Ahmed Sekou Toure of Guinea. He's telling us that day America praised any African leader, that means that African leader have betrayed his or her people. And he says, let that America or Europe says an African leader or any African leader is bad, is a dictator. That means that African leader is good. He or she stand for the doctrine of African and for African people. Are we not seeing that today? How can America tell African China is a bad influence, but at the same time, America is begging China to keep that relationship? But at the same time, America wants to keep that tie with China. She does not want to lose it. At the same time, America is protecting her interests, her businesses with China. But at the same time, America is telling us China is a bad influence to collaborate with, to make business with. Happy Sunday. I welcome you all. We are just about to start. Let's get started. Now, let me pull out an article and then we go about it. Now, let me repeat myself as I always do. This China is not a hate group or hating on anybody. This China is not against America and speaking for China. No. This China, this educational platform is for Africans and the African continent. And we are unapologetic of what we say here. Anything that we need to explain clearly for our people to understand and be liberated, that's what we stand for. We are not here for people who enslave or wrongfully and lie to us, colonizer, kill our leaders, and who want to see Africa and African people free. People who think our demise, they benefit from it. They loot our resources. People who think that we keep it silent and not speaking, who benefit from that, those people are not our friend. They are our enemies. How can you tell? Look, how can you tell us somebody is wicked, somebody is bad, but at the same time, you go behind us, you go behind Africans and strengthen your tie with this person? Let me put the first article out. And there are a whole lot of things we're going to discuss. And just be with me as we go along. I'm going to explain and connect the dots of what is going on currently in the world. Africa has been left out. I repeat, Africa has been left out. Africa has been left out. Because even as we speak of the BRICS, right now, it's only Russia. It's only Russia who is alone. Just how Africa is alone. But China, India, they've been part of BRICS. They are still protecting their interests. Their leaders are still meeting Europe and the West. They are still meeting the US and they are still meeting Canada. And they are still strengthening their tie. So if we see even India still coming making business with us, or coming being part of the BRICS, or coming to the African continent, don't get it twisted. It's not about friendship. It's about what Africa have that they are coming for. What Africa have, if they had it, they was never going to come to Africa. What Africa have, if to say they were the one that have it, they was never going to come to Africa to even talk about BRICS. So India is still on the other hand coming to Washington, D.C., strengthening their tie and their business. So they are telling Washington, D.C., we being part of BRICS, that does not mean we are not going to be part of it or our relationship going to cut off. This is about India. We being part of BRICS is because of the interest of India. We being part of Russia or whatsoever organization of Russia is, and we are part, is because of our interest. And we are not going to hate you because you hate Russia or because we are part of BRICS. Listen here, folks. All these people, they play to the rhythm, the sound of our past leader. What did Nelson Mandela say? Your enemy is not our enemy. And our enemy is not your enemy. And neither even if your friend is not even our friends. Because as long your friend, that you guys are benefiting, as long we are not benefiting from that other side of your friend, that friend is not our enemy. That is what exactly these Western wars are doing. And they are playing on the minds of Africans. So let's go to Joe Biden's statement first. All right? Let's go to Joe Biden's statement. So we're going to see a quick reading here, and then we're going to go to the video. And then from the video, because what they are doing right now, the West, that is America, Canada, England, Germany, they are all grouping, the entire NATO nation. Right now, what they are doing, they are grouping just how they have the BRICS. This is how these people are grouping already. And they are grouping because they all are coming as one to the United Nations, the upcoming United Nations summit that is coming. They are all coming as one. That is why they are grouping already. So that they can have one mindset, one idea of what good for Europe or the West. They're going to have a summit, and in a summit, they are going to discuss. Listen, folks, it was the same America and Europe who said, anyone that control Africa is the one to lead the war. Now, that is the wrong word to say. How can you say anyone that control Africa, a whole continent with billions of people that live on it? How can you say if any of the superpower control Africa? That means they are still seeing Africa as a colony. They did not say anyone that partner with Africa, they along with Africa will control the world. But they said anyone that control Africa. Are you kidding me? They did not say anyone that have partnership with Africa, but they said anyone that control Africa. If anybody is to control Africa, it should be who? Not African. If anybody that is to, how they call it, control America, it's going to be who? It's going to be African or it's going to be American. If anybody is to control Europe, is it going to be African or it's going to be European? So if anybody is to control Africa, it's Africans. But do you see the narrative of these people that we always run with? And as we run with their words or what they say, it stick into our mind. And that is why each time we meet with these people, those interpretations of their stick into our head. And we go with it in their meetings and we rely on it. And then anything they say, we go by it because their spoken words are in our ears and our minds. Because if they come out to say, anyone that partner with Africa, do you know what it would do? It would give African a kind of mindset of belonging, of controlling what belongs to them for themselves. And then whosoever coming to partner with them, they have to listen to Africans. But if you say whosoever control Africa, that means they are not there to listen to Africans. And that is why for so long, so far, they've been doing to us. Now, let me go back again. I have given the explanation, right? But now let me go back to their statement now. If anybody control Africa, control the world. So now, they have seen that China, Russia, right? And part of the Middle East like Iran, right? And the African themselves that are taking full control and decision making with the BRICS and telling the BRICS what Africa wanted, what Africa should be. And African themselves are now saying our raw material will not be transported to Europe and then it be brought back to our finished products and then be expensive that our people cannot even afford. African leaders are now saying it. Now, what is America? What is Europe? What are they doing now? Right now, they are all coming together to see what they can do. So that when they meet for the UN summit, while Africans are coming with different mindsets, the Europeans are coming along with America, the West, the colonizer, the enslaver, the oppressor, the imperialist. They are coming with one agenda. Let's get it started. Now, folks, last week, if you can remember, I told you at some point of time, very soon, the United Nations will be dissolved. And it's coming. What happened here is the way in which things are going. if it continue, the United Nations will be dissolved because America, along with our ally, they won't like it. Because at the end of the day, who is going to control the UN? Africa, because Africa have the resources. And every nation in the world will have to succumb to Africa. Because Africa have the resources that everybody need, and everybody are rushing to Africa. So at the end of the day, that is why America to be specific, Europe to be specific, they do not want for Africa to be in a position. And when Africa control the UN, and this is where the UN going to be dissolved, because all these people are going to leave. You saw it. Why these people are not on the RCC? There's a reason. Because they know the crime they have committed and the crime they are still committing. Why they are not on the Human Rights Committee of the UN? They know it because they are the major violator of human rights. Think to us. So if Africa get in a position, all these people are going to leave the United Nations. Because if Africa get that power, now there is no need for African people to run to the US or how they call it to the UN, because of course, to be specific, America control the UN. So do you think the UN will come and indict America on a crime against humanity that America have committed? They will not do it. So this is what's happening right now. The Europeans are grouping while Africans are sending in petition to join the BRICS. That is not wrong. That is not wrong. But face your backyard. Protect your backyard. Because at the end of the day, the BRICS you guys are running to, which is not bad, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, Russia is protecting her backyard. The Chinese, they are protecting their backyard, their nation. India, they are protecting their backyard, their nation. So being part of the BRICS is one thing. But the main thing here is for all African leaders to come together and build that solidarity. And forget about sending individual petition. Okay, I'm going to join the BRICS. Okay, I'm coming. Okay, I'm sending my invitation. I'm sending my how do you call it, my resume. That is BS. We are still defeated and we are still Congo. Do not focus only on the BRICS. I'm not saying the BRICS is bad, but do not put all your attention and focus. The attention and focus should be to unite the African continent. The leaders should come together. At the end of the day, if you don't unite that continent, you can even talk about producing all the mineral resources in Africa. It will be impossible. You can even talk about, we don't want our mineral resources to go to the West. It should be manufactured here. It should be produced here. It's BS. Because as long as we are not united, one nation going to come and say, I'm going to be with my colonial master. And that's how little by little, the split will come. And other nations will be pulling back again too. I'm going by my colonial master. Every nation are building. Every continent they are building, except Africa, because we are still getting the message wrong. But let's continue here. Now, at least get my direction where I'm going now. So, the title of this piece of writing says, I got it from the gateway anyway. So it says, idiot, Joe Biden once again says, they are going to be 1 billion people in Africa shortly. First of all, why would America be so concerned about Africa being overpopulated or Africa being billion? Africa is not, in fact, Africa is a continent. China is not a continent, but China have billion people living there. But they are not concerned. But a whole continent that have billion people, and you are concerned. How can you be concerned of people reproducing, but you are not concerned of people dying in DRC Congo? How can you be concerned of people being born? How can you be concerned of people replenishing, but you are not concerned of people dying? How can you be concerned of people reproducing, but you are not concerned of people dying? You are not concerned of poverty. You are not concerned of the issue in Sudan, the issue in Mali. In fact, when those people stand up and you sanction them, how can you be concerned about people living, but you are not concerned about people dying, suffering from starvation? Let's continue here. Joe Biden on Tuesday afternoon delivered remark at a chief of mission reception in the East Room of the White House. The chief of mission are the official in charge of diplomatic offices around the world. Again, these are people that grew themselves. Now, these are people that came from Europe, the NATO nation. So do you understand, African leaders? When it comes to the interests of the West, they lay down their differences. They don't say, oh, that's Poland, that's Belgium, that's Netherlands, that's England, that's Germany, we don't care. No. They come together. Do you see how they met? And they are discussing how they can make sure to disallow Africa the route Africa is taking. Because the liberation of Africa and the freedom of Africa, it means the downfall, no doubt about it. It means the downfall of Europe, it means the downfall of America, no doubt. Unless you are blind that you can't see. These are all European leaders that came to Washington, D.C. and they met. And the discussion they had, it was nothing other than Africa. What can they do to stop this movement of African leaders? The chief of mission are the official in charge of diplomatic offices around the world. Now, when they say around the world, Africa is not among here. Because if Africa was among these diplomatic officers or offices, there was going to be a representation of African in this meeting. Not that I even condone it, not that I even support it, because at the end of the day, we have had numerous instances where we have African officials. But at the end of the day, those African officials in those meetings have not been fruitful. They have just been there to turn away our attention. Let's continue. Biden rumbled incoherently about climate change, China, Xi Jinping, and Africa. Now you see. So the meeting they have there, again, you listen to this. It was not about what can they do to actually change the old colonial narrative or relationship with Africa. That's not what it was for. It was about how they can strengthen Africa. Because African leaders have mouth to speak now. How can they stumble Africa? How can they choke? How can they knee on the neck of African leaders and African people? That's why they were there. How can they convince China? Because as it stands right now, they cannot convince Russia. The only thing they can do is to keep fighting until Russia is defeated. Because they cannot afford to fight two superpowers at the same time. They cannot afford to fight China and at the same time fighting Russia. They cannot afford. If they tried, because China have huge impact in the world than any other nation in the world right now as we speak. You go to Asia, they will speak of the Chinese involvement in their economy and how far China have gone. So if they dare try it, they will be fighting those other nations too. And then he said, at one point, Joe Biden once again claimed there are going to be 1 billion people in Africa shortly. Why are these people concerned? Because the more population we have, the more demand for we become of our resources. But the more less we are, the more ignorant and silent we become as they continue to loot our resources. Why it is only in Africa that America and Europe will go and do research about population, about people born? How about other places? How about Asia? Why can't they go there? Only in China, only in Africa, that they will always go and do their research and come out with all kind of rubbish. Why are they so concerned about the African continent, and which of course we know? Because you never want to hear America say, Asia, their population. Australia, their population. They don't. Because there's nothing those people can offer them or they can get from them. Only in Africa. So we're going to take this out. Now, let's see the video, okay, the meeting that they have in Washington, D.C., what they just talked about in the White House, right? Let's see that video. The kinds of things they discussed in that video. Look, it baffled me at this point of time, if African leaders have not yet gained some senses to stop having meeting with these people, then I don't know where Africa is going. Because, these people, they never had their intention. That's the thing. That they never had their intention. What makes these people so brave? What makes them so brave? They never ever had their intention. Now, because the video is about 41 minutes, we are not going to play the whole thing. All right? We're just going to play a few parts, and then I will skip it. All right? But I want you to see where we are going. The video is about 41 minutes because it was a whole section they had about what they are going to do next. Because, they are planning. So I don't know if African leaders are planning. I believe they are planning. But my point here is they should not just focus on the BRICS. Because at the same time, India is coming behind Africans and coming to America and still strengthening her interest. Don't get it twisted. India, they are not just focusing on the BRICS. So that is not to say African leaders should come to the colonial master. What I'm saying here is the only true people that we can build relationship with is the entire African continent. All the African leaders And this is why we've been getting it wrong. Running to the West, running to other countries, running to the Middle East, running to Japan. How can a whole continent run to Japan? A nation, just a nation, a whole continent running to Japan. Does it make sense? We do it because we see the continent with those small colonial nations that we are still protecting. Under no circumstances, an entire continent with every resources, everything we have, we still run into Japan. I thought it's supposed to be the other way around. Japan's supposed to be running to Africa. I thought it's supposed to be the other way around. America's supposed to run to Africa and back in Africa. Do you see General Yellen going to China and back in China? Then how about an entire continent? But because we see ourselves individual colonial nation, that is why anytime we make decision, America says we'll put sanction on you. We will subdue you people. We will step on your neck. Because yes, we still depend on the crumbs. Not realizing these people without Africa, they are nothing. Let's continue here. I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm just going to play part and we skip and move on.
Please be seated. I'd like to start with the permission of my British friends to just say a few words about the wildfires in Canada and the quality of the air here in the East Coast. This blanketed the communities in the East Coast and the smoke this past few days. I just put out a more detailed statement, so for the press and for the people to see, but I spoke yesterday with Prime Minister Trudeau, and I've decided, dictated a national interagency fire center response to Canada's request for additional firefighters and the fire suppression assets such as air tankers. We already have 600 American firefighters on the ground, have been there for a while in Canada, including hotshots and the smoke jumper crews. And it's very important that affected communities listen to the guidance of their state and local officials from this point forward. To keep up to date on the air quality in real time, go to the app that we provided. It's called airnow.gov and check on one another. And by the way, what you'll get is something that looks like this with a calibrated piece that says when the air is clean and when the air is dangerous and hazardous. And it dictates what to tell you the air quality in the neighborhood. Now, it's my honor to welcome Prime Minister Sunak to the White House. Rishi, you're probably tired of meeting. We met in March in San Diego to discuss AUKUS and with Prime Minister of Australia. In April, we were there for the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement in Belfast. We met and discussed again today the need to get the Stormont Institution in Northern Ireland up and running. Last month, together with our G7 partners in Hiroshima, we drove progress in everything from our shared support for the brave people of Ukraine to the common principles of engaging with China. Today in Washington, we have had important and positive discussions to deepen our bilateral economic relationship and expand our cooperation to shape the challenges and future for this remainder of this century. It's a testament to the depth, breadth, and I would argue the intensity of our cooperation and coordination, which has existed, continues to exist between the United Kingdom and the United States. There's no issue of global of importance, none, that where our nations are not leading together and where we're not sharing our common values to make things better. And
now, so first of all, you heard the introduction. He talked about climate change, right? Where is Africa in there? Because climate change is supposed to be the entire world, right? So these people, these folks been lying to Africa And now, because African leaders are pulling back, right? Now you see, they talk about climate change, global, and now they are saying, because of global issue, global deaths, global crisis, the world need to come together. But where is Africa in there? So everything they did here, or they are doing here, these are all Europeans leaders. Now they mention Japan even there. So look, folks, as long Africans are not respected everywhere, Africans on the continent will not be respected. I don't care, you are a leader, you have whatsoever. Those nations are still colonial nations. And we're going to see that in here today, the attitude of these people. As long Africans everywhere are not respected, as long black people everywhere are not respected, the African continent will not be respected. I don't care, you are a leader, you are a what? You are a colonial puppet, you are a slave in the eyes of these people. So the meeting I had here, let's continue here. I don't want to waste time. Let's go.
In our conversations today, we continue to build on all that we've achieved over these past months. We discussed how we can continue to adapt and upgrade our partnership to ensure our countries remain at the cutting edge of a rapidly changing world.
So sorry, folks. I'm going to be stopping. But you heard it. To strengthen their relationship due to the current, how the war is going, to make sure they stay on top. You heard it. What they are discussing here, Africans were not there. It's just like the 1884 Berlin Conference. That's the same thing taking place here. But the difference is, it's not in Germany. It's not in Berlin. It's in the US here. It's to see how they can strategize to re-strengthen that power that they have built over centuries. Power of dehumanizing other continent, other nation, other race, other people. Power of killing, power of bombing, power of looting, power of proxy war, power of coup d'etat, power of creating terrorists. They have to come to strategize. African leaders, pay attention. Don't just focus on BRICS. Let's say if that BRICS fall apart, let's just put this, look beyond. African leaders, stop thinking one way. Look beyond. Ask yourself, in case BRICS fail, in case these people win China over, which of course I know it may not be, but just ask yourself, and it will help you to find a direction for the African people and the African continent. Ask yourself, in case these people continue to fight Russia and then Russia fail, because as they said, they will continue to fight till the last blood. There is no peace. They will continue to fight Russia through Ukraine till the last blood. They will continue to support till the last ammunition finish. So let's say Russia fail, and then they win China over. The BRICS is gone. BRICS is there. BRICS is finished. Then what will become Africans and the African continent? Let African leader answer that. If I were the leader, I have the answer already. But now at least you already have the answer just by the question.
Our economic partnership is enormous strength and source of strength that anchors everything that we do together. We want to harness that power to make sure we're creating good jobs and supporting working class families in both our countries. And that growth is shared broadly and no one gets left behind. So today, we're releasing a new plan to equip our economic partnership for the 21st century. It outlines how we can enhance our cooperation to accelerate the clean energy transition, that must take place and is taking place, lead the development of emerging technologies that are going to shape so much of our future, and protect technologies critical to our national security. And a key piece of that is working together to strengthen our critical mineral supply chains and to make them more resilient so we're not dependent on any one country to meet our goals. When it comes to technology that will shape the future, like semiconductors, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, the UK and the US are working together to make sure they are developed safely and responsibly and jointly. We're going to do more on joint research and development to ensure the future we're building remains fundamentally aligned with our value set in both our countries. And we're doing more to prevent technologies that are invented and developed in our countries from being used for military or intelligence purposes by countries that do not share our values.
Now, African, we heard it clear. They are going to keep, in fact, first of all, he said they are going to continue doing research. Now, this research is not talking about to go and read books. No, that's not the research he's talking about here. To go and sit in classroom, read books, and go read. No, the research here is how they can continue to play in the minds, on the minds of Africans. How they will continue to make sure to stop Africans. You heard he talk about mineral resources. They don't have it. But how they can continue the proliferation of mineral resources from other countries to their nation, to their economy. So what they are doing here in this meeting, they are saying that we should stick together. The only way we can win, even with this difficult time, we have to stay together. We have to stick together. We should not be confused. Because by we being confused, we will be defeated. Because a confused mind is a mind that is not focused. A confused mind is the mind that is going to make reckless mistake, bad decision. Let us stick together. Let us be together so that we can go through this together. African leaders, are you taking notes?
Today, we'll also discuss our unwavering support for the people of Ukraine and who are defending themselves against the most brutal aggression we've seen in a long time at the hands of Russia and Putin. The UK and the United States, together with more than 50 partners, have committed historic levels of security assistance to Ukraine. And I want to thank the Prime Minister for his strong leadership, contributing significant amounts of security assistance and training Ukrainian troops so they can effectively use the equipment and ammunition we've collectively provided them. And in bringing the world together later this month to drive support for Ukraine's long-term economic recovery. You're doing a great deal. So, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for making the journey to Washington. Earlier this week, we marked the 79th anniversary of D-Day.
Now, let me make a quick comment. I'm going to skip the video. But did you hear what Biden said? They are continuous support with arm and ammunition to to Ukraine, to make sure Ukraine win. Let me ask African leaders and African people and some of the dumbest Africans. Don't you think the amount of support that have been given to Ukraine, Because Russia is the enemy now. Let's just put it that way. Russia is the terrorist. Let's just put it that way. The amount of support that have been given to Ukraine to fight the terrorists, the amount of sophisticated weapons that have been given to the Ukrainian military to fight the terrorists. Don't you think if the U.S. was going to give that same support to African nations, to African armies, don't you think by now terrorists should have been wiped out on the African continent? Because America has spent $6.2 billion ammunition in Ukraine just for Russia. So don't you think if America was going to take her energy, because America always like to say they are the best partner to Africa. Nobody should partner with Africa, only America and Europe, because they are the best. But the amount of support that they have given to Ukraine, to the Ukrainian army, if that same support was given to Mali, don't you think by now terrorist activities in Mali should have been gone? In fact, those terrorists should have been there a long time with those ammunition. Africans don't need you to fight. Like the way you have Africa on the African continent, even though you don't fight, Africans don't need it. We are one of the strongest forces in the world. We just need equipment. That's it. We have the energy. We have the manpower. That's it. But they refuse to give donation, ammunition to Mali. It is Russia that gave ammunition or helicopter to Mali to fight the terrorists. They refuse. They refuse to give that same support, ammunition to Chad, to Niger, to Nigeria, to defeat Boko Haram. But in Africa, the enemies, the terrorists are the one that have the sophisticated weapon. How can that be? This is not about globalism. It's to keep Africa like that. The same way they did in the Middle East, to continue the exploitation of the African resources.
And timely reminder
are the challenges that we face. And standing here together, as our predecessors have done for generations, I feel confident that through the strength of our relationship, we can shape the world once again.
Now, sorry, folks, you heard that. As we are standing here today, okay, this generation, just like our predecessor did, once again, we can change the world, we can shape the world. Did you understand that? Did you get it? These people are coming together. They are having conversation, they are having dialogue of what to do to bounce back. Because their predecessor, what their predecessor did was inhumane. What their predecessor did, because they have no remorse. They are saying what their predecessor did, what their forefather did. They want to do the same thing in this new war. In this new war of how the war is shaping, they want to do the same thing to get back. Just how their predecessor did. Just how their forefather did. And this is about Africa. This is about Africa, folks. How did America become like this? It was Africans. Africans built it, and African resources. African labor, the exploitation of African resources and African labor. How did Europe become the way it is? Africans, the exploitation of African resources and African labor. African built Europe. African built America. And African resources exploited the American economy. African resources exploited the European economy. But they are failing, and that's why they came here, to have dialogue as to what to do. And they are not even afraid. They are saying just what their predecessor did. They are about to once again do the same thing.
in our pursuit of liberty, prosperity, and the possibilities of a new age. And that begins with our highest priority, national security. Last time I was here in the US, we signed AUKUS, the most significant defense partnership in generations, because we recognize that the security of the Atlantic and Pacific regions are indivisible. And just a fortnight ago, in Hiroshima, President Biden and I stood with President Zelensky and our G7 allies in a powerful display of unity. The UK is proud of our contribution, including providing tanks, long-range weapons, and training Ukrainian soldiers. But let no one doubt, US leadership and resources are the decisive contribution allowed.
All right, folks, I might pause this video because of it's long, right? But let me just add to what he just said, and I'm going to skip it again. Now you heard it. This just what Biden said about the support to Ukraine. The Prime Minister of England, the same thing. They are going to continue, in fact, to train Russian army. If the war is won, if they really love Africans, as they say it, that Africans shouldn't partner with no one, but Africans should partner with them. Why are they not training African military to fight the terrorists? Why are they not supporting African military to fight the terrorists? But rather, they put sanction on Mali. Why are they not supporting the Malian army to fight the terrorists? But when the Malian authority went to the UN, the so-called UN, to accuse France of supporting the terrorists, using the airspace, providing ammunition to the terrorists, providing support to the terrorists, the UN then went against Mali and said, Mali is killing her own people. Now you see it. I'm going to skip the video.
Allowing the forces of democracy and
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. All right, first question goes to James of the Financial Times, unless he left.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the question. You spoke about your unwavering support for the people of Ukraine. So much of that depends on funding from the US Congress. And now with the counteroffensive underway, when do you expect to return to Congress and ask for new funding? And how much do you expect you will need? And do you think that Speaker McCarthy will agree to it, given some skeptical comments that we heard earlier this week?
No, not sure, and yes.
And to Prime Minister Sunak, you spoke earlier this week about the importance of finding long-term security arrangements and agreements for the defense of Ukraine for many years ahead. Do you think that, have you found a common position with President Biden on that issue? What's your preferred model for a long-term security agreement with respect to Ukraine? And does it need to be sorted out before the Vilnius summit? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim Rickards. I'm a former advisor to the Pentagon, the CIA, and
Let me begin by answering your question. First of all, the Ukrainians should speak to the military operations. I won't do that from here. We've done everything we could collectively, but individually in the United States, to make them ready to support that they're going to continue. And an evolving situation that we're very optimistic. In talks with the Ukrainians and particularly with Zelensky and our allies and partners on commitments to Ukraine, long-term security to deter future aggression after this war ends is a goal. And we're advancing this goal by providing them the support Ukraine needs now on the battlefield and helping them strengthen their military over the long term. The fact of the matter is that I believe we'll have the funding necessary to support Ukraine as long as it takes. And I believe that that support will be real, even though you hear some voices today on Capitol Hill about whether or not we should continue to support Ukraine and for how long.
So you heard his answer, right? I'm going to skip it again. But again, because the video is long, I'm trying to skip so that because we have a lot to discuss, right? But you're getting the point. All right, you're getting the point. So this is not about if the US want peace today, there will be peace. If the European Union want peace today, there will be peace. But what happened here is, if there is peace, to them, it makes still no difference. They are still defeated. Because their position in the war will not still be recognized. Their point here is to strengthen Russia, for Russia to fail. If Russia fail, now they might go against China because they cannot fight China and Russia at the same time. They cannot be spending, they just spent $6.2 billion in Ukraine. And their economy, the United States economy is also already going downward. The European economy already going downward because those money that should have been spent into the economy, into the country, are not being spent. So they are going downward instead of upward. So at the same time, they fight China, it's going to be bad. In fact, it's going to be more dangerous for them. So they have to fight to build that collaboration with China while they continue to defeat or to fight Russia. That's the point goal. That's the end goal. They are not afraid whether Russia are going to use nuclear weapons. They don't care. But if they can defeat Russia, that's it. Because if Russia wins, it still means defeat to the West. It's not about Ukraine. It's not about whether they're going to destroy or save Ukraine. It's about the West. Because those two superpowers, China and Russia, coming together. Because if they can defeat Russia, then China will be left alone. Because somehow, some other way, China is also being encouraged by Russia. And Russia is also being encouraged by China. And due to that, other nations like South Korea, they are also being encouraged. So, and other nations like Iran. So if you can defeat Russia, then South Korea are going to pull back and be that time. Then these people are going to come against me. If we can defeat Russia, then maybe Iran going to be that damn. Then I can't make it. These people are going to come against me. Then I have to pull back. Then now people are going to pull back from China. Some other nation, those nations are going to pull back from China. And China will have no option. And then at the end of the day, it will come right back to Africa. We are defeated. We are done. Because what's going on here is all about the mineral resources. Because someone may say, what's so much about Africa? What? No, it's about the resources.
How long we should support them.
Their existential threat.
Let me answer your first question. First of all, maybe quietly when we finish this, you can give me the number of that family, and I will call them, let them know that the president and this administration has their back, and I mean that.
Prime Minister Sunak, thank you. You mentioned that AI has been a key part of your visit. What are the US and the UK, what is the UK doing with the US to protect elections and democracy from AI-generated disinformation campaigns waged at scale by foreign actors? And you also mentioned the warning letters sent by AI leaders about the potential threat that this technology, if misused, can pose to humanity. How is regulating artificial intelligence going to be any different than what has been done at the global scale so far to deal with climate change, another existential threat?
Let me answer your first question. First of all, maybe quietly when we finish this, you can give me the number of that family, and I will call them, let them know that the president and this administration has their back. And I mean that. Look, as president, I was proud to end the ban on transgender troops in our military, sign the Respect for Marriage Act. Americans, especially children, you're loved, you're heard, and this administration has your back, and I mean it. We are not, and funding to help families support their kids, new efforts to protect marches, community centers, healthcare providers, and small country. And the fact is that I'm announcing today a series of new initiatives that we're taking.
Sorry, folks, that there was something I want to talk about. Now, he said they were able to ban transgender from the military, and they were able to sign the Marriage Act. Ha! Then why? Why is the United States being so hypocrite about preaching LGBT on the African continent? You just ban it. You ban it from the military. You ban it. And you sign the Marriage Act. Oh, but you telling African nations, you threatening African leaders, African authority. That so are you not violating human rights? Is that not a violation of human rights? Are you not influencing other people's rights by banning it from the military and signing marriage rights? And as we all know, when they say marriage, it's between a man and a woman, a union between a man and a woman that can produce family, that can produce children, that can go and have and do their thing and get birth and produce their kind. Then how can you on the African continent threatening African leaders, threatening the African continent that they are violating human rights? How come? How come, Biden? How come, Biden? How can you sanction the Ugandan member of parliament from coming to the US, from traveling to the West? How come you ban them? But you hear banning it from your military, and you hear signing marriage right, but you telling African not to sign marriage right. Oh, you want to ban it here, but create a breeding ground on a continent that you will send your pedophiles to go and support the African generation, to go and support the African continent. You might have done it in the past with your false doctrine. You might have done it in the past by changing a book that is known as the Bible. You change it and you have the slave Bible. You might have done it in the past, but we're not happy this time around. Anything you do to Africa, we will do the same thing to you. Anything America do, we'll do it to you. If you ban any African leaders from coming to the US, we will ban the European leaders. We will ban the American diplomats from going to Africa. We will not give them visa. And your business in Africa will be under threat. Anything you do to African, we will do the same thing to you. You ban any African leaders, we will ban your American diplomatic leader, your senators, your representative. We will ban them from coming to the African continent. And your businesses will be in jeopardy. We will dissolve your businesses from there too. Anything you do, we'll do the same thing. Anything you do, we will do the same thing. You ban any African leaders from coming to America or Europe, we will ban you and any American leader. We will ban Joe Biden from going to Africa. We will ban the prime minister from going to Africa. After all, you need us. And we must tell that into your faces that Europe need Africa or else they can't survive. America need Africa or else they cannot survive. That is why right now they are confused and having meeting like this of what to do. Anything you do to us, we'll do the same thing. Enough is enough. Let's continue.
To protect the LGBT community was going to.
Here in the US, you've convened all the companies together recently. We've done the same in Downing Street.
China, Russia's invasion.
How to escape the heat if you don't have an air conditioner. This only takes 5 minutes.
Invasion of Ukraine, that the
You have some of these leaders in the industry talking about how they're concerned whether the machine will be able to begin to think for itself, not need to be programmed. I mean, it's just, I know it sounds like science fiction, but it is close to science fiction, some of the things. It has enormous potential. And we're looking to Great Britain to help lead that effort to figure out a way through this. So we're going to generate for example, an AI capacity here, excuse me, a semiconductor capacity here in the United States.
Between the UK and the US on a critical minerals agreement so that the US can provide us with that interaction and cooperation we need. And the Atlantic Declaration that we've announced today just talks about strengthening, deepening our cooperation. It's not about looking in and being protection. It's about the exact opposite of that. And it's about strengthening that cooperation across the full spectrum of economic, technological, and other spheres. And that's what you will see. You'll see that from the president. You'll see it from me. You'll see the UK and the US working even more closely together on all the big economic issues of our time, because that's what the moment demands. And that's what our citizens need us to do. And that's what the president and I plan to deliver.
It's not just our citizens. Look, the global south, there are going to be 1 billion people in Africa very shortly. 1 billion. At the G7, it was originally called Build Back Better World, but we're talking about there's a new PPI. Anyway, an industrial policy.
So, folks, now you understand. The whole purpose of this meeting was about Africa. At the end of the day, where did they earn it? They earned it on the African continent. The whole purpose of this gathering, what at the end of the day was about Africa. What can they do to stop Africa, the direction Africa is taking? That's it. At the end of the day, that's it. It's about the resources. So at the end of the day, you see how they have narrowed it there. Hey, look, folks, there are 1 billion people in Africa very soon. But in 2019, Africa was already pronounced as billion. So right now, Africa is about 9.4 billion. Let's say 1.4 billion or something. Yeah, 1.4 billion. That's what Africa is now. So we are already billion. We are 1.4 billion. You see it? But at the end of the day, what he said here, that just means we have to stop Africans from developing. Okay? We have to stop Africans from the direction they are taking about manufacturing their resources in Africa. Because at the end of the day, we have to get them from there for cheaper price. I mean, for higher prices. And it's going to be in finished product, and we cannot afford. Why when you go that far, Africa is about to be billion? Why are you so concerned about that?
That we're all signed on to provide the countries in Africa and in the global south an opportunity to grow, significantly grow, which benefits the United States.
That's what our citizens need us to do, and that's what the president and I plan to deliver.
It's not just our citizens. Look, the global south, there are going to be 1 billion people in Africa very shortly. 1 billion. At the G7, it was originally called Build Back Better World, but we're talking about there's a new PPI. Anyway, an industrial policy that we're all signed on to provide the countries in Africa and in the global south an opportunity to grow, significantly grow, which benefits the United States, benefits Europe, benefits every country, because the reverse is true. If we don't figure a way in which these countries can grow and participate and have to and be able to build infrastructure. You know, the Chinese have a Belt and Road Initiative. Well, the Belt and Road Initiative turns out to be a debt and confiscation program, not going very far. But what we're doing, and we're going to be doing with our NATO allies, with the G7, is providing opportunities. For example, Angola should be in a position very soon to have the largest the largest solar facility in the world, generating significant amounts of energy. Benefits us, benefits them, brings them into the 21st century in a way that they've never.
All right, folks, at the end of the day, you heard it clear. Okay? Africa have billion people. We got to stop them. Africa have mineral resources we need. And he made references to that, right? For example, Angola, okay? The world leading producer of what? Energy or something, like he said. And then what did he say? The resources of Africa, it will be able to benefit Canada, benefit America, benefit Europe. And then what he said? Benefit other countries. What are those other countries? Why can't you say benefit Africa? First of all, it must benefit Africa before even Europe, before America, before Canada, because it is from Africa. But did you see? He left Africa out. He said the resources in this 21st century, we got to figure out what it's going to benefit America, benefit Canada, benefit Europe, and other countries. What are those other countries? Those other countries are the NATO nation. But you see, Joe Biden left Africa out totally because that's how they've been doing it. That was the policy of the 1884 Berlin Conference. The policy of the 1884 Berlin Conference, before they close it out. The key to that conference was, we will make sure Africa and her descendants will never rise. That means those that were in that meeting, their descendants will make sure the descendants of Africans at that time, and let's say those descendants at that time of African, which we are today, we will never rise up. They will make sure their descendants will make sure the descendant today will never rise up. That is what Joe Biden said, the resources of Africa. What the hell? You don't know Africa? You just mentioned Africa about the resources. And then you said the resources will benefit America, benefit Canada, benefit Europe, and other nations, and other countries. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You couldn't even say it will benefit the African continent and the world. It will benefit the African continent and the rest of the world. But do you see what is going on here? Do you see the plan of these people? And then they bash China. Oh, China is not a business partner. But listen, according to them, they want to build a better relationship. You've been on the African continent since 1884. In fact, since the 1600. Let's forget about the 1884. You've been on the African continent since the 1600. And then all the way to the 1884 Berlin Conference, where you yourself now, you went and took the continent. You divided it. You took it as yours. You took it as yours. You never built a better partners. You never built a better relationship, Joe Biden. Up to the 2000s, before China started coming in. And from the 2000s, before Africa start experiencing what development is, what technology is. While you were there, you never built better relationship. It is today that you say you want to figure out to build better relationship. And at the same time, the nation that have opened our eyes to better development, you are telling us to disengage ourselves from that nation. Then how can you come to convince us that you want to build a better relationship? When we African feeder, we have already built a better relationship with we African feeder. Through China, we have gained some momentum of development. Oh yes, we are producing cars in or Europe. It was because of China and the technology. How Africans have gone over the years to China and learn. How the Chinese are sending their technology to Africa, and it's because of them. And then you tell us those people are bad. You are the right one. When you've been in Africa for centuries of years, you have mean all with your technology. You never share your technology with us. And then you come and telling us you want to come and you are the better partner. You will build a better relationship, and China is the worst. When you just told us, y'all will make sure and exploit the African resources, and Europe, Canada, America will benefit from it, and other countries will benefit from it. And you left Africa out. It's like coming to tell you we are coming to America to loot the American resources so that Africa, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran will benefit from it in other countries and leave America out. What does that interpretation mean? I disregarded America already. African leaders, I hope you guys are taking notes. We are the one putting our life on the line discussing these things. So please watch and take notes. We are putting our life on the line, exposing these people. Please watch and take notes and lead. Lead. Let's continue here. Now, let's get to the next video and see what we're talking about here. While they hate Africa, they love the resources, but they hate Africa and African people. Only the resources they want. Let's see part of that. And let's see part of the reason why they have this meeting. Now, I am not going to play the whole video because it's a little bit long and we're running out of time. But I'm going to make sure you get it. You get it, and we move on. All right? Okay.
We spend too much time trusting others outside our continent and not enough time trusting ourselves. We need to change that history. Dear Ministers, I'm hopeful that our business leaders will leverage opportunities provided by the African Continental Free Trade Area. I believe that the AFCFTA will be a catalyst toward the pursuit of beneficial economic integration in the continent. Through the Free Trade Area Agreement, we have promised ourselves as Africans that we will increase intra-African trade. That doesn't mean we buy goods from country B and pretend they were made in the DRC. It means we must manufacture in the DRC and sell within Africa. It means we must manufacture in South Africa and sell within Africa. It means we must manufacture in Ghana, in Togo, wherever we find ourselves as Africans. We become productive and we change our condition. So let us work on making this effective. Another matter that we must address if the African Continental Free Trade Area is to be a success is the value addition to our natural resources within the confines of our continent. Everybody is running after the rare mineral resources of the DRC, but they're not establishing factories in the DRC. don't sign any agreement if production is not to happen yet. We must refuse. We must ensure that value addition, beneficiation happens within Africa. And we must ensure that as Africans, we derive full benefit from the value chain and that our people realize these much needed opportunities. The time has come for South Africa and the DRC to work at changing our condition, to work at changing our history. But to do these things is not easy. There'll be much opposition. So the challenge is, can we work together honestly and faithfully?
Now, I took it out right. This is what they hate. What she said. And a statement she made, there will be oppositions. It's not about African. The opposition are the West. The same people that told Africans don't make business with China. But at the same time, they are going to China, begging China to strengthen their relationship, to keep their relationship. Those are the opposition. The same people, I mean, folks, look, listen to this. We are not here for opinion. I started by saying, Amen Sekou Touré said, if America or Europe praises your leader, that means that leader is a bad leader. And if America and Europe tells you your leader is bad, that means that your leader is a good leader. And Amen Sekou Touré said, the day they praise me, that means I betray you. Let me ask you, African, when America and Europe said, when they put Nelson Mandela on a terrorist list, did you believe that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist? When they put Dr. King on a terrorist list, did you believe that Dr. King was a terrorist? When they said Malcolm X was an extremist, did you believe that Malcolm X was an extremist? When they said Patrick Lumumba was a bad leader, did you believe that Patrick Lumumba was a bad leader? When they said Thomas Sankara was a bad leader, did you believe that Thomas Sankara was a bad leader? When they said Steve Biko was a bad leader, did you believe that Steve Biko was a bad leader? When they said Idi Amin Dada was a bad leader, did you believe that Idi Amin Dada was a bad leader? When they said Robert Mugabe was a bad leader, did you believe that Robert Mugabe was a bad leader? When they said Gaddafi in our time again was a bad leader, did you believe that Gaddafi was a bad leader? If the answer is no, then how come we still believe in these people? How can we still believe in America when Americans speak? If the answer is no, how come we still believe in Europe when Europe speak? How come? How come? How come? So this is what exactly that the lady said down there. They don't like it. They want our mineral resources. So they stand the decision Africans are making now, today, right now. It is against the imperial, it is against America. can one freedom be against America? How can one's freedom be against Europe? How? Why? Why will our freedom be against America? Why will somebody right to live be against America or Europe? Why will somebody right to inherit what was given to them naturally by birth, naturally be against America or Europe? Why will something that is naturally given to America by birth, naturally be against Africa? Will America like that? Will America like Africa to be against the interests of America? What for America? What for America in America here? For America to be free, to be liberated, to partner with whosoever she want to partner with? How can that be against Africa? Will America like it? These are the same people that said Nkrumah, or how they call it, Nkrumah was a terrorist in the first place as well. These were the same people that said Dr. King was a terrorist because he was fighting for freedom. These were the same people that said Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. And then, I don't blame these people. We will have Nelson Mandela Day, and then we call these same people who call Nelson Mandela terrorist to come and be the keynote speaker or guest speaker. How can that be? How can that be? Somebody that said Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. And then we call them on Nelson Mandela Day to come and stand over Nelson Mandela's spirit, over his grave, to come and be his keynote speaker. That means we believe that he was a terrorist. Somebody who said Dr. King was a terrorist, we allow them to come and tell us which time of the year to celebrate Dr. King, and after that is done. That means we don't know what Dr. King stood for. Somebody said Dr. King was a terrorist, and then they come and tell us how to remember him, what to remember, how to remember, what to speak of him, how to speak it. Somebody said Malcolm X was an extremist, when we know that time period, what he stood for. And then they tell us not to talk about Malcolm X in our institution, and we agree. Was Malcolm X an extremist? And these are the same people that are coming today telling us they are the best partner to us. Let's see what we are talking about here. The reason why. Let's go further. Now you have seen one of the reasons from the video. Now let's see their attitude again. These people, let's see it. They continue to displace it. But when we speak it, and then people will come and say we are being divisive. When we speak it, people will come and say we are not uniting the world. We are the one dividing the world. We are the one being... But these people do it every day. They not hide it. They show it. They are not out for peace. They are not out for equality. They are not out for unity. And in fact, the creator of the world did not create anything unity. The creator of the world did not create everybody equal. The creator of the world set certain people above all people. The creator of the world, he set certain people above all people. And those are black people. Why do you think the African continent is blessed? Almost everything. If he loved everybody equally, why he did not bless the 7th continent equally? While the rest of the 6th continent are running to Africa. The Creator did not bless everybody equally. The rest of the six continents are running to Africa because there is something Africa have, they don't have it. God did not create everything equally. The Creator did not create everything equally. He blessed certain people, and he blessed certain people at a higher level. He blessed people differently. He blessed land differently. That's it. So let's see from this interview here, right? And you see the attitude of this white, ignorant sitting here. And see how he tried to play a fool out of Queen Mother, Dr. Afrika-China. Sorry to say that, fool, but that's what he's did in this video. His attitude in this video displays everything that America stands for, everything that Europe stands for, everything that colonizers stand for. His attitude in this video displays everything.
Now about the wonderful news coming out of Africa. Remember, we were talking about the Berlin Conference, how we were designed to fail through these little countries. We were divided up. Well, guess what? Game is over. April this year, we saw our leaders come together and signing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Yes.
Yes, so we have 50 countries that have already signed, and we're going through the process of ratifications. We only need 22 of the 50 to ratify. Already we have 10 ratifications deposited with the African Union.
So free trade agreement in Africa.
In Africa.
For African countries.
We're going to negotiate as one bloc. We have made a commitment as Africans that the only way we can survive, which is what our Pan-African fathers wanted, to speak with one voice, one continent, one voice. And that's, we're finally getting there. We're finally beginning to bury the Berlin Conference.
Okay, African Union. What is it? What is it all about?
African Union. Remember when our Pan-African leaders met in 1964 and created OAU? It was during that wonderful Organization of African Unity. That's when Kwame Nkrumah proclaimed Africa was for the Africans and African Union now.
Okay, now I'm going to replay the video. Maybe you did not get it. I'm going to replay it. Maybe some of you got it, right? But did you see how he was answering? So, one of the Africans, right? So, and then AU, what AU for? It's like asking an European what EU is for. Who does not know what EU stands for? European Union. Who does not know what AU stands for? African Union. But did you see his attitude, what he was doing down there? Everything he did, I'm going to replay the video so that you can get it, and then we're going to discuss it bit by bit, and then see what I'm talking about. Did you see what he did to that lady in there? He was actually trying to say, do you think Africa is going to unite? Do you think we're going to do it? Do you think we are going to agree? Do you think that, look, what AU is for? And then when the lady explains that, so he was actually trying to tell us, AU is not going to be AU. Africa is not going to unite. What the hell? You're going to ask an European what EU stands for. And he got the guts to ask this lady, AU, what AU is for. Let's watch a video for the second time. You see, now I'm going to break it down as we watch it, and then see his body language, his attitude.
I want everybody to know about the wonderful news coming out of Africa. Remember, we were talking about the Berlin Conference, how we were designed to fail through these little countries we were divided up. Well, guess what? Game is over.
You see that? Does that mean he was really there to listen to the lady? He was actually trying to say, yeah, speak. And whatsoever you want to say it. Yeah, yeah, just speak, yeah.
April this year, we saw our leader.
Now, did you see the kind of laugh he did? Did you see? He was actually trying to tell the lady, let me laugh. Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think America and Europe are going to allow that to happen? Do you think Africa is going to take her potential place? Do you think Africa is going to be liberated? When we know the liberation of Africa, it means the downfall of America and Europe. It is only because America wants to fail, but not because African people are going to be liberated, or they're going to make Africa to be where it's supposed to be. Then it's going to make America fail. It is because America wants to fail. It is because Europe wants to fail. It is because these people are evil. And the reason why they are evil is because the suffering of African means their economy rocks. The humiliation of African means their economy rise. Mean their economy rise while their people live better life. And their people began to mock African people that they are monkeys. They cannot come to our country. We will close our borders. Because when Africa take a potential play, America will not secure borders. Europe will not secure borders. Their border will be open. Because they will be the one running to the African continent. That is why he said it there. And he laughed. He laughed. He laughed.
Leaders come together and signing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Yes.
Yes, so we have 50 countries that have already signed, and we're going through the process of ratifications. We only need 22 of the 50 to ratify. Already we have 10 ratifications deposited with the African Union.
So free trade agreement in Africa.
In Africa.
For African countries.
Do you see that? Free trade agreement in Africa, only for African people. European trade agreement in Europe is for who? Is it for African people or is it for European? The NATO, their trade agreement going on is for African or is for the NATO nations? North America free trade agreement is for who? Is it for African or is it for America, Canada, and Mexico? But do you see it? They are fighting for it not to happen. Because why? The resources. They do not want for the resources of Africa to circulate on the African continent. They do not want for African people to benefit. And that is why they are enemies. Did you see his action, his body language there, his face? Oh, okay. So a free trade. The African resources should just be a trader among African people. Should just be in Africa there. When you had the chance, you looted our resources and came to America and Europe. Hold on, folks. Did he share with us? When you humiliated or did he share with us? Century upon century. When you've been looting our resources, did he share with us? You have to humiliate us before we come to Europe and America, before we can see what our resources are being made out of.
We're going to negotiate as one bloc. We have made a commitment as.
Did you see that? We are going to negotiate as one bloc. And he's like, so you are telling me the secret. You see, that is why African, we are not supposed to have meeting or dialogue with these people. It is a fact. This is not hate to say we hate this nation. No, but you can see it. It is wrong to dialogue, to have dialogue with such people. It is wrong. Totally wrong. He's not here to have dialogue. He's here to mock that lady. He was there to mock her. He was there to mock African people. So you're going to have this free trade. So you're going to trade among yourself. So do you really think you're going to liberate? We will see how that will happen. That is why proxy war can finish from on the African continent, because they created it. They create it. That is why coup d'etat can finish. Oh, America just they just confess. They just confess. They coup in Guinea. They coup in Mali. They mastermind it. They train people to go do it.
Africans, that the only way we can survive, which is what our Pan-African fathers wanted, to speak with one voice, one continent, one voice. And that's...
You see that? The lady is telling the plan of we African, we have to unite, we have to speak with one voice, just how Europe and the West, Europe and America, just how they had it in our meeting, they came to Washington, D.C. The lady is telling him, we have to speak with one voice as African, we have to unite, and he's there, talking on the lady. They respect.
We're finally getting there. We're finally beginning to bury the Berlin Conference.
Okay, African Union. What is it?
Look at that. There's a word I'm looking for to use on this idiot. African Union. Who does not know about African Union? Maybe it could be the little European child or the little American child, the white American child, because they don't teach African history. But this man, a journalist, this man sitting out there, this journalist, is he telling me he does not know about AU? And he got the guts to tell this lady, AU, what does it mean? That's an insult. So he's telling this lady, with what all you have discussed, it comes down to African Union. What does it mean? I want you to tell me, because it's not going to happen. America and Europe, they are not going to allow it. So you tell me, sit here and just explain, just talk, because you want to talk. Tell me, what does AU mean? It's like looking at an European face to insult an European by telling them, what does EU mean?
What is it all about?
African Union. Remember when our Pan-African leaders met in 1964 and created OAU? It was during that wonderful Organization of African Unity. That's when Kwame Nkrumah proclaimed Africa was for the Africans and African Union now.
This picture belongs to a man called...
So you heard that, you saw it. You saw that clear. Are these people worth making business with? These people have their plan. They already know. They already know what they are going to do. They have their plan. No matter what, no matter how Africa can come and have a meeting with Joe Biden and do everything, it's for nothing. It's for nothing. Did you see that? It is wrong for us to tell these people our plan. Absolutely wrong. It is wrong for their journalists. Look, if their journalists are coming to interview Africans, it's not because they want for African to be heard or they want for African voice to get out there. It is because they want to get our intention, our plan. They want to get our mind. They want to get what we are thinking. That's the bottom line. You saw the kind of ignorance he displays down there. Let's see here. Let's see another article here. Okay? About BRICS. Let's continue to expose these people. Now, look right here. This is an economist, okay? This is an economist that came out with this study. Look, when J.L. Hugo said Black unity, Negro unity, and we keep saying this, Negro unity is a threat to America. This is what he was talking about. How can African progress be a threat to other people? For real, how can American progress or America progress be a threat to Africa? How? Maybe the only way America progress can be a threat to Africa is by creating proxy war. There is a threat. Maybe the only way is by undermining African government. There is a threat. Maybe the only way is by creating coup d'etat. As they've been doing it, there is a threat. Maybe the only way is by killing African democratic leader. There is a threat, like the way they did to Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba. There is a threat. Maybe the only way is by killing African visionary leader, like how they did to Gaddafi. There is a threat. But if not, it's not a threat to Africa. If not, it's not a threat. America freedom is not a threat to Africa. So why should Africa freedom, why should Africa interests be a threat to America when Africans are far? They are not even bringing no military. They are not bringing bomb. They are not creating terrorists, nothing. But Africans are just saying, we got to manage our God-given resources. Because God did not create everybody equally. That's the bottom line. So stop coming to us telling all about God love when you are not showing it. Telling about, oh, don't speak this, God love everybody. No, God did not love everybody. That's the facts. In the Bible, it said, I created you above all people. Why would God do that? God used hate in the Bible, referring to a human being. I hate you. He used love in the Bible, referring to a human being. I love you. God bless people in the Bible, and he cursed other people in the Bible. So how will you come to me and blame me who is speaking the obvious? Let's continue here. This economist, he said, listen to this. BRICS. So everything here is all about Africa. Everything here is about Africa. Every movement, every move America and Europe they are doing, their economists, their research is all about Africa, to dismantle Africa. You heard from the first video what they said. They're going to make sure what their predecessor did, they do it in this 21st century to make sure to be back. In the changing time of the world, BRICS go back common currency. A shock to global fiat money system, says economists, as Russia confirmed launch in August. The new currency for the BRICS. In August, it should be launched. Now, I'm using the word it should be, but that's what they say here. Because as they are planning, America and Europe, they are also planning. Let's continue. And that's why I say, African leaders, think twice. If the BRICS fail, what would be Africa? Because the plan here for America and Europe is to make Russia to fail. If Russia fail, China going to pull back. Because China need another superpower to go along. So if they can defeat Russia, other nations, like I said, North Korea will pull back, Iran will pull back, and China will be isolated. And now China have to come back to America. to strengthen their tie. And what will be left with? Africa, nothing. Focus on uniting the African nation. We are saying now, let BRICS be your plan B, and your plan A be about uniting the African continent and the African nation around the world. That should be your plan A. And your plan B is the BRICS. Let's continue here. BRICS go back common currency, a shock to global fiat money system, say economists, as Russia confirmed launch in August. Now, Benzinga, that's his name, I believe. The BRICS countries could soon launch a viable alternative to the US dollar. Russia confirmed this week. What happened? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, a correlation of nations going by the moniker BRICS, is set to introduce a new currency backed by gold. You know America does not have that gold. You know Europe does not have that gold, even though they have looted African and Indian gold and they have it to the Buckingham Palace. But it cannot sustain them for 5 years, depending on their population. It can't. But let's continue. Australia does not have it. Mainly, it's Africa. Now, it's set to introduce a new currency backed by gold. Russian English News Channel, RT, reported. An official announcement in this regard will be made at the Bloc Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. Why do you think they're putting pressure on South Africa to arrest Putin? So do you see the interest of the West is not our interest? If South Africa arrests Putin, it's against Africans' interest. And henceforth, it make America and Europe to conquer Africa again with their claws or their clauses. With the growing initiative, more and more countries are allying up to join the groups. That is why America and Europe, they are so frightened, they are scared. That is why they have to come out with a meeting quick, so that they can have one voice before getting to the United Nations. Now, let's see here. Let's see something different here. I think I took it out, but let me see here. Let me see here if I have it. Okay. Let me see. I think I mistakenly took it. Let me see here if I have it. If not, I have to go back to my email and show you what I'm talking here. Okay, I have to go to my email. Let me go to my email and put it out quick. Hold on, be with me. Let me show you something quick. Let me show you something quick. Be with me. Let me show you something quick. I have it in my email. Hopefully I see it fast, but let me see here. What was that? Hold on, be with me. I will get it. Let me see here. Hold on. Okay. Right here. I told you I would get it. Hold on. Okay. Let me put something out quick so that you can see what we're talking about here. All right. As they are preparing for the United Nations Summit. Hold on. Let me put it out quick. Hold on. Let me see something here. Okay. Right here. So you're going to see what I'm talking about here, okay?
You own commercial real estate. Yes, you. Why don't you own commercial property? any delegation that goes to Kyiv this day from another part of the world always has to have a peace plan with it. And the African leaders who are there today and going to Moscow tomorrow, of course, have got a peace plan. These African leaders are not particularly representative of the 55 members of the African Union, and they have rather taken the Russian view of the war. They accept President Putin's narrative on what this war is all about. So it's good for Ukraine that these people have gone to Kiev first. It gives Zelensky a chance to show his side of the picture and see if he can shift their perceptions a little bit. When they go tomorrow to see President Putin in Moscow, of course, they'll be talking about this peace plan they've got, but really the agenda they will have is to try to persuade President Putin not to duck out of the grain deal, the really important grain deal, which helps get grain onto the world markets. Last year, it was almost a catastrophe in terms of world food prices and food insecurity. And it'll be worse this year if the grain deal, which is at present hanging by a thread, is not renewed. Now, I suspect although there's not much in this in terms of concessions from Ukraine or the West in continuing the grain deal, I think President Putin may well continue the grain deal because he's playing a bigger game with African politics and politicians. The Russians are heavily involved in the civil war in Libya. They're heavily involved in the civil war in Sudan. They have been very heavily involved in diamond-rich Central African Republic. There are already about 1,500 Wagner fighters in the Central African Republic, as well as in Mali and in Libya and in Sudan. But 1,500 fighters there have been there for quite some time. And the Central African Republic are offering the Russians a military base there for between 5,000 and 10,000 troops. So President Putin is playing a very big game in Africa, trying to bring Africa on board, not just for resources and military cooperation and trade, but also to get their backing for his version of what the war is all about. He sees the war as part of a shift in global politics, and he wants Africa on board. We'll see how successful he is at doing that at the United Nations General Assembly, I would imagine, in September when the big meeting, the big international meeting takes place, and we'll just see how much backing the Russians still have in other parts of the world. It's been quite high so far.
Okay, you heard it right now. You have seen it. This is not an opinion. Things you have seen it, right? Now, first of all, he said, Russia, using military in those countries, civil war. It is not civil war. Those wars were created by the West. Who caused it? Now, he referred to the war in Libya as civil war. Who caused the war in Libya? America caused the war in Libya. How can it be civil war? America is fighting a war in Libya. Then you call it civil war? America is fighting a war in Libya. America went and started that war in Libya because America went and killed the Libyan president. And you call it civil war? America is fighting a war with Libya. And you call it a civil war. I came into your country and kill your president, assassinate your president, destroy your country. And then you call that a civil war? It's not a civil war. America is fighting war with a little tiny nation in Africa called Libya. And the war in Sudan, you call it a civil war? Are they fighting with primitive weapons? Are they fighting with Sudanese weapons? Or they are fighting with Western weapons? You call it a civil war? When you have external influence and you call that civil war, you can never have an external influence or external causes of a war, of a situation, of a chaos, and you call it a civil chaos or you call it a civil war. It's not a civil war. Malians are not fighting themselves. You have terrorists who are supported by other entities that are fighting with the Malian army, and you call it a civil war. That is not a civil war. You are yet to come and tell what civil war is. Malians are not fighting each other. Malians are fighting terrorists created by the West, supported by the West. That is not a civil war. Those people are not fighting each other. They are fighting terrorists created by the West, supported by the West. That is not a civil war. That is a proxy war you fail to talk about. And we are not going to take your interpretation of a civil war. And he said Putin is playing game with African leaders, and then there's no. The West is the one playing game. And then you heard what he said. But we will see how it will go during the United Nations Summit come September. Whether he will still have African backing. So do you see, folks, everything going on? It's all about Africa. Do you see? It's all about Africa, my friend, my brother, my sister, my father, my mother, my auntie, my uncle, my sibling, my nieces, my nephew. It's all about Africa. The resources. Everything going on right now is all about Africa. Did you see it? Now you understand. Let's see here. So let's see here. So as the NATO nation, we have two more and we out, okay? As the NATO nation are coming together, right? See what they are doing as well. Their army. So they have the American army, fine. They hold on, let's see something here and see what they are doing. Okay, see what they are doing here. See what they are doing. Now see what they are doing here. NATO flexes muscle to protect Vilnius summit near Russia, Belarus. You see it? So the meeting they had in Washington, D.C. That was the first meeting. And then they're going to have this final meeting in Belarus before September when the UN meet. They are going to discuss what they discuss in Washington, D.C. when they go to Belarus, when these NATO nations meet. They are going to discuss what they are going to discuss one aim, and they're going to come with that one mind, that one set to the UN. I don't know how African peoples are coming. I don't know why they are coming with the BRICS. I don't know. But they need to come with an African mindset, one African. And you will mean all the African leaders should not come. They should pick maybe one or two African leaders to come for that UN summit. That's it. And that one or two African leaders should be the voice, should come with one message that the 55 African nation will come. Let the 55 African leaders get together and have that message and tap it up and give it to that one African leader that they trust. And that it be read to the United Nations. They should not come with different memo, different portfolio, different speeches here, different interests. They should not. Because these nations, the West, that call themselves NATO, they are already grouping and they are going to come with that UN summit with one voice. They are not, America is not going to come and read something different. UK come and read something different. And then Germany come and read something different. It's not going to happen. All right. In preparation for the upcoming meeting in preparation of the upcoming meeting of alliances leader, including the U.S. President Joe Biden, NATO has transformed Vilnius into a heavily fortified stronghold, deploying advanced weaponry to safeguard the Eden. The fortified measure are particularly significant due to the proximity of the meeting location, situated a mere 32 kilometer, 20 miles from Lithuanian border, fenced with Belarus, a country closely allied with Russia. Now, the question becomes, I'm not going to read the whole thing, it's here, I'm going to stop right there. But why did they carry the meeting to this area? It's to put fear, first of all, in Belarus. To put fear in them. Because Belarus and Russia, they are allies. Belarus is not part of NATO. Belarus is not part of NATO. Belarus is an ally to Russia. So they have fortified themselves to go to Belarus and have the meeting there so that the army of this country, the people, the citizens of this country will be fearful of this fortified military, NATO military. And the citizens, because of fear, they might protest. They might go against their president, their leader. They might be afraid. And they might tell the president of that country for the Wagner group to leave. To leave the country. Because those Russian private military being in Europe there is like the Western world creating terrorists on the African continent. There's a terrorist in Europe, if we can put it that way. That's why. Because they cannot go, the NATO nation will not go and say, we want to fight these private military. That will be war. But they have to go down there and put fear into the citizen, and the citizen will not demonstrate. So by them going down there, they are going there with their final memo before comes September. I don't know how African leaders are coming. Let me take this out here. Let's continue. Let's continue to the next place. Now, before I even go there to the last video, let me see something here. Let me bring U.S. Secretary of State Janet Yellen in China. In China. But they are telling us to leave China, not to partner with China. What kind of evil is that?
Cabinet Secretary to make a goodwill mission to Beijing in the last few weeks. We spoke with her exclusively before she departed China. At the top of your meeting with the Chinese vice premier, he actually acknowledged one of those awkward moments. He mentioned the Chinese spy balloon. He called it an airship. Can you say at this point that tension has been smoothed over?
Well, what I can tell you is that I had a very constructive visit. I received a warm welcome and had very substantive series of meetings. We had substantive conversations about the global economy, developments in our own economies, financial markets, and a list of concerns that each of us brought to the table that we agreed to follow up on over time.
Understood. The U.S. ambassador to China, Nick Burns, told me just last month that 4 or 5 different American companies had been experiencing intimidation at the hand of Chinese authorities, and he pointed towards an espionage law that had recently been rolled out. Did you get assurances that American firms won't be intimidated?
Well, that certainly is one of the concerns that I expressed. I had the chance to meet with American businesses and to hear about their concerns, but and certainly in my meetings, that is a concern that I raised. It's something that we will have further conversations about and try to address over time.
The administration has taken some targeted national security focused measures that do impact trade and the economy, including some restrictions on high-end technology sales. The administration is reportedly also considering restrictions on computer chips related to artificial technology and cloud computing. Do you have a sense of what the retaliation will be from China when the U.S. does this?
Well, an objective of my trip was to explain that national security is something that we can't compromise about and we will protect. And we will do so even if it harms our own narrow economic interests. But that when we take such actions, which do have an effect on the Chinese economy, that we will make sure that they are transparent, narrowly targeted, and well explained. And this is a point that I tried to make in my conversations with Chinese counterparts. I would point out that the Chinese also protect their own national security through export controls and other similar devices, including controls on outbound investment. I explained that President Biden is examining potential controls on outbound investment in certain very narrow high technology areas, and that if we go forward with these, that they will be indeed very narrowly targeted and should not be something that will have a significant impact on the investment climate between our two countries.
You're talking there, I think, about the long-delayed executive order that would put some restrictions on what American companies can do when it comes to investing in China. Is that still in question?
That's right.
Did you hear anything in your meetings that would make you tweak it, change it, pull back from it?
Well, mainly I tried to explain what it is that we're contemplating. It's still something being discussed in the administration, and the timing of it is not yet certain.
Does that mean there's a chance that the Biden administration will drop it, that they won't issue this executive order?
Well, no final decision has been made, but as I've said previously, this is something we're looking at very carefully.
You did mention there an action China just took in regard to export controls, meaning they have this stranglehold on a lot of critical minerals, and they just blocked the export of 2 of them that are really essential for computer chips. How should people understand this? Is this a warning shot? Is this Beijing saying, look at what we can do, and if you take further restrictions, we'll ramp it up from here?
Well, I certainly express concern about this action and contrasted it with the actions that we've taken. Our own actions are narrowly targeted to address national security concerns, and it's not clear that the actions that the Chinese took are similarly narrowly targeted at their national security concerns. So this is an area that I expressed concern about.
Do you mean, are you suggesting there that it was just a retaliatory action?
Well, potentially.
Are you concerned that this is the beginning of an escalation?
Well, my purpose is to make sure that we don't engage in a series of unintended escalatory actions that will be harmful to our overall economic relationship with one another. And we have had very little contact, both senior officials and also just the American.
Okay, you heard that, Claire, right? If they disengage from China, it's going to hurt their economy. Claire, there is already mineral resources like chip. because all the African mineral resources, going to China. And apart from that, because of cheap labor, America have taken her companies to China, right? So do you see here? They are fighting so hard. As you can, I caught the interview, but you see from the interview, Secretary of State, Treasurer, right? Gina Yellen, fighting so hard. You see it. Building a relationship with China. But they are telling us China is bad. They are telling us China is not a nation to partner with, to do business with. But they are worried of their businesses in China. They are worried about their interests. They are worried before China cut the string. But they know their economy survive because of China as well. At some level, their economy survive. At some level, because of China, like she's explaining in there. They depend on China as well. But they are telling us not to do it. China is bad. It's not a good partner. They are deciding for us. But do you see it? That is why Ahmed Sekou Touré said, if America says to you, your leader is bad, that leader is not bad. Do not go against that leader. But if America presses your leader, then that leader is not your leader. Go against that leader. Then that leader has betrayed you. Every black leader that America has spoken against, they were never bad. Every wars that they used against black leader, that war or those wars did not describe those leaders. Malcolm X was not an extremist, but they said he was an extremist. Dr. King was not a terrorist, but they put him on a terrorist list. So as Nelson Mandela, so as Kwame Nkrumah, so as Petro Lumumba, so as Thomas Sankara, Steve Biko, the list go on. Jomo Kenyatta, the list go on. Gaddafi, the list go on. Robert Mugabe, the list go on. Everything that they have said against those people, none of them describe those people. Do you see that? Let's watch the last video here and see. We're going to end there. And we're going to go. This video is long. I'm not going to watch. We're not going to watch the whole thing. It's 37. Maybe we're going to watch 5 minutes. I'm going to skip. But there is something I want you to see here. Okay, how the West are preparing before the United Nations Summit. It's all about Africa, my people. It's all about the African resources, my people. And you're going to see from this video how Europe has failed. Even Germany, you're going to see it. They need Africa to come back. And that is why the Prime Minister of England, when he and Joe Biden stood out there and they said, just like our predecessor, just like our forefather did, we have to do the same thing. They have no remorse.
On the ground in Ukraine relates to shaping perceptions, shaping the agenda of the NATO summit. And I think we can see the first indication that NATO is in a state of disarray is that they were unable to find a new NATO Secretary General to replace Stoltenberg. So he's been extended for a year. Apparently the British wanted Ben Wallace and the Americans wanted Ursula. They couldn't come to an agreement. So, and because NATO is a consensus-driven organization, they went to the default. And you have to ask yourself, why couldn't they come to an agreement? I thought NATO was, has never been more unified than it is today. But the fact is, NATO is a dysfunctional organization that has invested heavily in the war in Ukraine, and the war is going badly, very badly for NATO. And I think you're going to be seeing a NATO summit that was supposed to be sort of a victory celebration of the great counteroffensive, putting Russia back on its heels, using this to create momentum to achieve a strategic defeat of Russia. And instead, NATO is going to be gathering together, confused about its future, scared about its future, uncertain about its future. And there's no person better to lead a scared, uncertain, nervous alliance than Jan Stoltenberg, because he personifies scared, nervous, uncertain.
You know, I discovered when I went into law enforcement, after a couple of years in law enforcement, I discovered something very important. I didn't even realize this. The people that try to act the toughest are the weakest. You know, the people that try to act, I'm bad, I'm this, they're the weakest people. And the people, the really, really tough people, just kind of quiet. Just, they don't bother anybody, but you don't want to screw with them. You know what I mean? And I found that the mouthiest ones, and Stoltenberg is one of the mouthiest ones. You know, and I guess that's why they wanted von der Leyen, because these are people that I don't care what's happening. Everything could be crashing around them. They're going to stick to the narrative. And it seems to me that the Biden people, the neocons, they're not about, sometimes it doesn't even seem like they care what's happening on the battlefield. All they're trying to do is maintain a narrative.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at Ursula. When she was the defense minister of Germany, she destroyed the German military. There's a reason why Germany can't put multiple brigades in the field today, and that's because Ursula. There's a reason why they can't produce new equipment. It's because of Ursula. She really is horrible. The only thing she's good at is parroting American policy positions. She's extraordinarily adept at being the loyal servant, and that's what she is, a loyal servant of America. And that's why we want her. We want somebody who will say, you know, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. Ben Wallace, I know why the British want. Look, the British have been very aggressive in terms of their support for Ukraine, and Ben Wallace personifies this aggression. The problem is Britain's got nothing. They got no game. You know, this is you know, would be the equivalent of me trying to join the NBA, and he said, "Well, Scott, you know, it's old man appreciation, so." Yeah, come on in, dress up, sit at the end of the bench, and maybe second half, if we're up 400 points, we might put you in. And for me to get in there in the first quarter going, hey, block them out. What's your problem? All right, get a pick, hustle, hustle, hustle. They're going to be looking at you going, dude, you really don't get to do this because you're not really a factor in this. And Ben Wallace is the equivalent of that, the old white dude, who's been allowed to dress up and sitting at the end of the bench, trying to pretend he's a player. England has no military. Let's just be straight up on that. And NATO is a military alliance. So, you know, why would anybody want to have Ben Wallace, who is just a mouthpiece of an empty, you know, literally he's the mouthpiece of an empty suit, because that's all the British military today is an empty suit. Not a good look. So I think the United States would prefer to have somebody who's totally subservient to America without confusing the picture by making people believe that this is somehow the resurrection of Great Britain, the global power. Great Britain's a joke militarily. Literally, they've got nothing. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You can put the entire British Army into any major soccer stadium in Europe today, and you'll have 30,000 unsold seats.
You know, Scott, something I said recently, a couple of weeks back, I looked at it, and you probably heard me say it. If you play chess and you're looking at the board and everybody looks at it and you say, in 3 moves, this checkmate, there's no way around it. You just wipe the board clean and start. You know, when it gets to the point that the end is certain, the game is over. All right, like, I'm not very good, but I played before, and more often than not, I'm the one looking at checkmate. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble in 3 moves. Yeah, Garland, let's start again. You've just lost 10 in a row. Let's go for 11, right? When I look at the battlefield and I see dragon's teeth, mines, you name it. I see Russia in the areas that they've taken. I see these, impenetrable, elements of protection. When I look at what's happening with Ukraine, they're still begging for equipment. They're throwing a few guys in it. They get blown up. When I see the condition of Ukraine, I look at it and I say, well, it's over. Russia has taken a lot of stuff. They're sitting there. Ukraine can't possibly penetrate their defenses, and they're just sitting there picking off stuff, blowing, bombing, artillery. It's over. They're just sitting there, and now Ukraine's like, yeah, we got to do another. We got to go get more people. But the ones that you have are dead, and they're not well trained. And now it's like, oh, we'll send the F-16s. Is it over? It seems like it's over to me. Where did they go from here? Going into NATO, also add this, with the discussion coming into NATO, with anybody with half a brain looking at this, you're a military guy. You can tell me, I'm looking at the battlefield situation saying this damn fight is over. At any rate, go ahead.
Yeah, if we're playing chess, it's over. 3 moves, it's done. You're 100% correct. My concern is that NATO may say, well, we ain't playing chess anymore. And seek to do, because they are desperate. Let's be clear what's at stake here. The survival of NATO, the viability of NATO. NATO is a viable institution going forward. Let's also remember what's happening this week. In France, there are serious, there's serious unrest. And France, of course, is the storming of the Bastille in July, what was it, 1789, was supposed to be the birthplace of modern democracy. I mean, there it is, the people, liberty, equality, and all this good stuff. France, a member of NATO that espouses civilian control of the military, they would never tolerate the notion of supporting a coup d'etat in a democratic society. Right now, there's talk of a coup d'etat in France. I don't think it's going to happen, but things have gotten so bad that people are saying maybe it's time for the military to step in. Europe's busted. Europe's broke. Hopefully they can fix it. I'm not betting against France. I'm betting for France. I've been to Paris. I've been to France. I've traveled extensively. I've worked with them. I respect them. I want nothing but good things to happen to France. But what I want and what's happened are 2 totally different things. And bad things are happening to France. And, bad things are happening to Europe. Germany is in the process of deindustrialization. That's not me saying, it's a major German think tank saying, gosh, things have gotten so bad, we are actually deindustrializing. Germany, which was the industrial heartland of Europe, is deindustrializing. Basically, Europe is falling apart, and Europe is the foundation of NATO. That is what makes NATO NATO. And so, we have to be realistic about what NATO expects. These nations have spent the last 70, 80 years married to an ideal that's no longer viable. And how do you walk away from that, especially when nobody has identified an alternative? Europe's scared right now, frightened. They don't know what their future is, and all they know is NATO. And so this NATO summit is going to be a gathering of frightened nations, desperate for some miracle outcome that changes what appears to be their destiny, which is they bet everything on the Ukrainian horse, and coming down on the last furlongs, and the Ukrainian horse is lying down on the field with 3 broken legs. It ain't going to win.
All right, folks, the video is very interesting. It's long, it's interesting, but I can post the link if anybody need it, but it's very, very interesting. All right, so I watched it and I was like, look, the whole thing is about Africa. Now you have seen it, right? You see it. I can post the link if anybody need it. But You have seen, you heard what he said. Europe is dead. They are broke. They are falling. NATO is their last hope, and which is true. And that is why they are having this meeting, or these meetings. That is why they came to Washington, D.C. And that is why they are having meeting before September, the United Nations Summit. So they want to come out with one voice. All of them coming with one voice. They are all finished. This is the last stop. When Nkrumah said neo-colonialism is the last stage, it is up to us Africans to stop being the neo-colonialists. These nations are gone. You heard what he said. Not to have lived on the ideology for 80 years plus. But it is no longer viable to the world. And do you know why they are failing? It is all because Africans are pulling back. This is a battle that we have been fighting for so long. And some of our comrades have died in it. Some of our comrades have died. And we are still fighting. It is a fight that was started back, not today, not yesterday, not weeks ago, not months ago. This is a fight that's been going on, that we started a long time. Some of us were not even born. That is to tell you. So their last hope, they are going to fight, like he said. They will fight. This is their last hope. They will fight. Because Europe is dead. They are broke. That is why they are spending every cent in Ukraine. Because the fear of Ukraine, it means they are dead. They are failed. NATO failed. Europe failed. The West failed. But if they can defeat Putin, if they can defeat Russia, they're safe. They will not fight China. They can't try. You heard what Gina Yeri said? They're not even thinking about war with China. They're not. Because if they try it, they know China has set impact in the world, not only in Africa, but around the world. So everybody going to go with China. If you have, in fact, they have done a survey. They have done a survey. China and America in the world. Who would they prefer? Everybody said China, 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 China. So they can afford to fight China or to go against China. So their fight have been going on for so long. And we are winning. We should not feel that we are not winning. We are almost at the end of the battle. We must stand strong. And sometimes the end, it can be easy. The end, it can be easy. It won't be easy. It will look like we are not making progress. The end, that's how the end gonna look like. The end gonna look like we have not been making progress. Because it will want make us to give up, to turn back to the colonialists. That's how the end gonna be. The end gonna be tough. It will look like we have done nothing. It will look like, but why it is like this? All the way we have fight, why it is like this? The end is not going to be easy. But we are there. And that is why channel like this is good, because we expose it, we bring it, so that when we at the end, we will know the battle have been won. We will know our enemy have been defeated already. This is the last stop. Like he said, NATO is the last stop for them. And that's it. And that's why they're going to have this meeting. That is why, first of all, they took this meeting all the way to Belarus. Why would they want to go have meeting to Belarus all the way over there? A nation that is close to Russia. Is to put fear in these people. It's to put fear in them that Russia will not fight you. You are in Europe, and we are in Europe. All these nations are part of NATO. You cannot fight us. You cannot fight all these nations. That is the fear tactic they want to put in this nation. Why couldn't they have that meeting in England, in Germany, or back in America here? But they took it all the way to this land, to this small, tiny country that is allied to Russia, is to put fear in them. Because it's all about tactics, it's game. This is about Africa, folks. Don't get it twisted. We must wake up. As a black man, that is why it's called Pan-African. Because black people everywhere are being disrespected. This is not about, oh, that's African issue. That no, black people everywhere are being disrespected. And the continent of Africa is for black people everywhere. The resources of the continent is for black people everywhere. And that was the dream of Gaddafi. When Gaddafi had a meeting with a group of black Americans, let me be specific now. I want to be specific, okay? When Gaddafi had a meeting with a group of African Americans, and he said, we are going to provide resources where African Americans don't have to take loan to go to school. We will provide finances here. They will benefit from the resources of Africa. Money will be provided just for African Americans to go to schools of their choice. That was Gaddafi. He said it is in me for the same people that build this country, provide the economy of this country. They have to take loan to go to school. And then when they graduate, they have to pay this loan back without getting any good job. And Gaddafi said money will be provided for our brothers and sisters in America to go to school. They don't have to pay back. They can pay back by providing services back to the continent, but they don't have to pay back. And they kill him. They kill him. They fight Libya, and then today they call it civil war. America is fighting war with Libya, and they are calling it civil war. Who killed Gaddafi? Who dropped bomb in Libya? Who military were in Libya fighting? American military were in Libya. How can American military be in Libya fighting and you call it civil war? American military, Libyan military, are they citizens in Libya? Are they citizens in Africa before you call it civil war? You cannot call that civil war. So don't get it twisted. We are all African. The resources of Africa is for African both home and abroad. If only we have been listening to our forefathers, those that came before us, we will understand. Because they spoke it. Marco Garvey spoke it. Kwame Nkrumah spoke it. Malcolm X spoke it. But we have not been listening. That's why. Jomo Kenyatta spoke it. But we have not been listening. Even Robert Mugabe, that they said he was a bad man dictator, he spoke it. But we've been listening to the narrative of the colonizer and not listening to those people. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being on. That is today's presentation. That is today's education. Now you understand what is going on around the world. And to the African leaders, please listen. Take note. And to the African journalists, you so-called journalists, that don't like to carry the African perspective, that don't even like to carry news like this, but like to go and take the perspective, the ideology of mainstream media and then make it your news. This go to all you people. Negro. This go to you people too. And to the African writers. You like to take the narrative of the white supremacy, of the white media, of America and Europe. But you don't want to take the narrative of an African scholars. You don't want to listen to a channel like this and come out with your narrative, where come out with your news and come out with your reports. You don't want to do it. All of you are enemies to Africa. You are part of the problem to the African continent. I see you people next Friday or Sunday and also Saturday. Peace.